So this morning we are checking in with one of our country's top war historians. Tim Cook is the chief historian and director of research at the Canadian War Museum. He's also a member of the Order of Canada, and his pandemic project had him doing a deep dive into our country's medical contribution during the First World War. His research is based on deep searches as well as unpublished letters from soldiers and medical personnel. This is the book you're going to want to get for that history buff in your life. Tim Cook is joining us this morning from Ottawa. Good to have you on the show today.
Good morning, Lindsay.
I do want to start by asking you about Queen Elizabeth II. She was the first female member of the royal family to be an active duty member of the British Armed Forces. What do we know about her military service?
Well, I think we're all reflecting on her service to Canadians, to the world, to the Commonwealth. And for me, as a military historian and having spoken to veterans almost all of my adult life, First World War veterans before they all passed away, Second World War veterans, Korean War veterans, peacekeepers, veterans in Afghanistan. Many of them raised with me the fact that Queen Elizabeth, when she was princess, had served during the Second World War. And she served her country. She was a young mechanic in this great image here. She got her hands dirty. And that always amazed me as a young man, thinking that our royals were serving in uniform. And Queen Elizabeth II, who I often, I'm born in 1971, so I've always known her, that she served as well. And I often reflect on the 50,000 Canadian women who served during the Second World War, and many of them took inspiration from Queen Elizabeth's service.
Really incredible. Now I want to talk about your new book. It is called Lifesavers and Body Snatchers. Let's start with the cover image. 3 soldiers, we see them there. What can you tell us about these 3 soldiers?
It's a haunting image, isn't it? A Canadian soldier in the middle, 2 German wounded soldiers beside him, emerging from the mire and the mud of Passchendaele, that horrific battle in October and November of 1917 when the Canadian Corps fought there amid unburied corpses. And there were 16,000 Canadian casualties there, about 1/3 of those killed, 2/3 injured. And my book is about the medical services, the doctors and the nurses and the surgeons who cared for those wounded soldiers. And as you mentioned, I've been reading the letters and the diaries of doctors and nurses and soldiers for 25 years now, and just horrific eyewitness accounts, but also stories of courage amid the carnage, stories of incredible adaptions of medical care, horrific wounds, and yet most of the soldiers who were wounded on the battlefield, who made it back to a doctor, were saved. And that's the story that I try to tell in Lifesavers and Body Snatchers.
So there's a photo in here of a soldier with presumably a broken arm being held in place by 2 bayonets. Obviously, medical assistance in the field was limited, but what sort of revolutionary medical advances were born on the battlefield?
Well, Lindsay, this was the age before antibiotics, so almost every wound was infected. From the start of the war, the doctors were struggling. How do you not only care for these soldiers with graphic broken bones and shattered skulls, but how do you keep the infections from eating away at them? So these incredible evolutions in medical care, in surgical care. This is the war where blood transfusions were taking place, where Canadians, in fact, were the pioneers in this, where we used X-ray machines for the first time to identify steel and fragments of metal in the body. The wars where we engaged in plastic surgery to reconstruct faces. It was the war of incredible mental wounds. We have a much better sense today of post-traumatic stress disorder. All of this and more, Canadian doctors and nurses had to grapple with to save these young Canadians on the battlefield.
Tim, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. I want to let our viewers know the book is called Lifesavers and Body Snatchers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.